Hello, and welcome to another episode of the IT News podcast. On the show this week, we have West Australian Government Chief Information Officer Greg Italiano talking about the state's digital transformation. Greg spoke to IT News as part of the 2021 State of the IT report, which assesses how Australia's states and territories are travelling with digital government. Please enjoy. Thanks for joining us to discuss WA's digital government progress as part of the IT News State of IT report that we're producing. And now I think the state has come a long way since then, but there's obviously quite a bit more to do. So with what I would call the foundations in place, where is the Office of Digital Government now focusing its efforts? And is there a number one priority for the government right now?
Yeah, thanks. I think you're right. I think some of the things to do the foundations are there, and we have a new strategy, and we've certainly got the office now well supported, and we've been able to, I think, bring government along on the journey, and certainly COVID has helped with respect to government's appreciation and understanding of digital and data. So where we're at right now is we're very focused on the new strategy and implementing it. In particular, I'd like us to see an investment profile grow in services that will be noticed by citizens and will make a difference to their lives. So in terms of convenience and access, so that's a big focus. But equally, the other areas of the strategy are important as much as improving online services. So cybersecurity, if anything, the threat environment has deteriorated significantly in the 5 years timeframe that you refer to. Digital inclusion's become very important, obviously, because of what COVID has shown about the kind of divide that exists and the need to address that. And then, of course, data sharing, which has just a massive profile at the moment as well. Among other things, of course, that's been advanced by all governments in Australia through an intergovernmental agreement on data sharing. So all those things, and of course they do support one another. So obviously, so those four pillars in the new strategy, that's where our priority is.
So on the strategy, it was released fairly shortly, I think in June. There is a heavy emphasis on, I guess, reimagining citizen-facing online services. This is on every government's mind right now. How is the office planning to achieve this? And has it set itself a target for the number of services it wants available online? And what is the baseline now? How many services are currently available?
It's a good question. I know there was a report back in around 2017 which remarked upon the very low level of online services. I guess the basic answer is we don't have a revision of that number, but what we do know is that we would like to see more services online, and we know some of the constraints that prevent other government services and transactions being made available. So that's things like digital identity and also having, I think, convenient and accessible services for the community. So we're working on those things, and we've also been developing other platforms that would support agencies to leverage services such as Tell Us Once capability, e-forms, and the like. So we hope to see an acceleration with that, and we certainly hope to see more services online. And what we also know is it's not just having the service online, it's got to have those characteristics that make it easy for people to interact with. And that's one of the pieces of feedback that we've been able to gather over the course of the last year, is that it's not helpful if they're not well organised.
Right, so not just digitising a service, it's more about transforming that service and how it's delivered to them, completely revolutionising the experience for citizens, I guess.
Yeah, and getting away from the fact that you access these services through their respective agencies as opposed to a single place to come to for government. So we think that's very important.
And, you obviously don't have a revision on the number of services, but are there a sort of a core range of services that you're going to look at first before moving on to those niche services that are out there?
So we're certainly targeting the high volume services, and a key area for us is regulatory area at the moment. So we've got a funded program around environment online, so doing approvals and assessments using those new capabilities. And those use cases translate very well into other areas of regulatory reform whether it's in the mining sector or the local government sector. So we think we can accelerate and build off what we're doing with environment online quite quickly. But we've also got those other high volume services, things like working with children, clearances and the like. So going after some of those services that have been prevented from being made online because of things like identity and the like is a key for us.
You mentioned platforms like Tell Us Once and eForms. Are they the whole of government digital capabilities that are referred to in the strategy?
Yeah, that's correct. So
yeah.
We've been obviously, identifying those common things that are used across agencies, and then we're going to support agencies and influence their direction so that those common platforms are used as part of their transformation journey.
And I remember reading in that strategy, one of the platforms as well that you're looking at is digital identity. It's one of the ones that everyone's looking at the moment. Is that a near-term ambition for the government, or is it something you're looking at more long-term?
No, it's near-term, and I guess one of the advantages of coming a little later to the digital transformation journey for WA is, we've been able to, I guess, investigate digital identity at a time when the Commonwealth's been investing very heavily in the MyGov ID and also the TDIF has matured. So we are currently connected in beta to the MyGov ID, and we have plans to grow that and to use that identity service and others as they become available. The principle is we want to give people choice, and we want to give them the ability, I guess, to determine what level of ID they want to use. And in some cases, that might be their social media identity to log on to a service that's just an information service or the like. And we also know the Commonwealth have ambitions to further improve their services up to the point where some of those much more sensitive services might be able to be accessed through things like biometric identification.
And would that work sort of hand in hand with the single government portal, wa.gov.au, that you've been sort of building out over the last few years?
So the way we'd see it working is you'd have a kind of a log on and an ability to log through that portal, and then you would be able to click on certain services. And when those services required you to establish your identity, the citizen would be presented with a range of choices in relation to identity in the context of the service they're seeking. And then they would be able to establish that identity. Once having done that, when they log back in, then obviously that would not have to be repeated. So that's the type of service experience we're aiming for.
And how about Service WA? How does that sort of fit into the whole conversation around the single government portal and identity and that kinds of thing? Is Service WA intended to be sort of just the face-to-face interaction you might have with government, and then you'd have the single government portal as the online interaction?
So Service WA to date has been primarily focused on a pilot in Bunbury, which is a large city outside Perth, in terms of regional cities in Western Australia. And it also has included, under the Service WA banner, the funding for those digital capabilities that we were speaking about. So I think it's fair to say at the present time there are some decisions in relation to what Service WA will be in the future. And that may well include this idea of, a conversion of channels in terms of, face-to-face and digital and the like. So those things are playing out at the moment, and we expect to be able to, I guess, really solidify what those next steps might look like in the next few months.
Earlier on, you mentioned that COVID had played an impact or played a role in how the digital strategy was formulated, being quite recent. Did it really help to demonstrate the need for those digital services? And did it force the government to delay any initiatives that you might have otherwise stood up more quickly to focus on those immediate needs, those emerging needs that COVID brought?
So it didn't delay anything, and it certainly accelerated things. And I think most of my colleagues from other jurisdictions, perhaps with the exception of those like New South Wales, are already in a substantially progressed position, but everyone else would, I think, also say the same thing about COVID-19. So because digital's been so important and very high profile as well, so things like our border controls, for our G2G pass and our check-ins in terms of Safe WA, the way that we've had to use data and exchange that between different parts of government as well as with other jurisdictions. All those things have happened, I think, more quickly, more decisively than we could have hoped. And I think because we've had compelling timeframes, it's kind of demonstrated that most of the time it's not the technology that's the inhibitor, it's really just the will and the determination to want to make change. So it's certainly had a very positive impact. And, as much as it's obviously had a very, very adverse impact on our lives, from a digital point of view, I think that's one of the positives, I guess, that's come out of it.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of COVID-19, what role did the office play in the government's response? I think the Department of Health had quite a large role in some of the solutions that were rolled out. Did the office have any role in sort of, say, the development of the Safe WA contact tracing tool, for instance?
Yeah, so in that particular case with Safe WA, my office and myself were involved in cross-sector coordination because it wasn't just the development of the app, it was also the comms, the relevant, directions that would be issued and the like. So there was a whole of sector group that came together, which for a period of time, and I was responsible for coordinating that. We also helped with the cybersecurity assessments of the app and got involved in just some of the procurement decision making. So we played a facilitating role in that case, and Health did lead that. There are other things. We've stood up virtual call centres for the sector. We've played a role in being a point of contact for data being received from the Commonwealth and then exchanged out to agencies and vice versa. So things of that nature we've become heavily involved in. I think the office has played a very helpful role, continues to play a role, of course. We're not out of this by any means, and data continues to be very important, for example, things like, vaccination programs and the like. So, I think the office has played a very helpful role.
Coming back to sort of, I guess, the broader digital government transformation that you're trying to achieve, you've got the budget coming up quite soon. What are the kinds of things we're likely to see in the budget on September 9?
Yeah, I guess being a conscientious public servant, I'm aware I can't say a great deal about the budget until it is published for reasons I'm sure you'll understand. But, we're certainly conscious that, to give effect to the strategy, it needs a support in terms of not just investment, but the investment approach. So I think, the best I can say is that we've certainly been very conscious of that, and I think let's see what's in the budget when it's released.
Of course. Obviously, the last couple of budgets now haven't had a lot of funding for some of the core transformational projects you guys have been sort of focused on. Have you been constrained in that sense due to the level of funding previously?
Look, I think anyone would say that resourcing is essential. I think it is true to say that whether it be the Office of Digital Government or our government agencies, that investment levels by government in recent years have been at the lower end, and that's obviously something that makes digital transformation more difficult. I think part of what we've been working on is trying to understand how it is that we can give greater confidence to government. As you know, it's a bit of a journey to overcome past challenges and where governments perceive there's been failures in the delivery of ICT-related projects and the like. So it's a bit of a timing question. It's a confidence question. I'm feeling positive that we've been able to make some ground there. And again, referring you back to my answer around the budget, hopefully there will be some proof that those conversations have matured and that confidence level has grown.
I guess you've been able to sort of save money through programs like GovNext ICT a few years ago. Is that still paying dividends in terms of the budget, or are you looking to other hosting arrangements in the future to try and generate the same level of savings in terms of what you can spend across government?
Look, I've probably been keen to talk about GovNext and its benefits across a broad category of benefits. And I'm not saying that to be cute, but indeed it has produced cost savings in some cases. In others, it's been about risk mitigation, resiliency, and better services. So GovNext has succeeded, I think, in the vast majority of agencies in the WA sector are now consuming from GovNext. Many have been able to make a transition across multiple service towers. So, look, in terms of getting us out of that very lumpy, unpredictable capital investment cycle where we kept feeding physical infrastructure and not really opening ourselves up to broader transformational opportunities, that transition been substantially successful. We've also seen with wa.gov.au, we've seen a number of agencies being able to shut down, their existing websites and come across to the platform, which is among other things, produced, a financial benefit. I think there's a bit of a bad history of over-promising around cost savings. So I guess in my term as GCO, I've been very cautious to make sure that we're not overstating that, and we're always making sure that there are a range of benefits. But over the long term, of course, we know that if we're able to take a lot of transactions out of face-to-face and call centres onto the digital channel, ultimately we are going to produce a more efficient sector.
And I think last year as well, WA set up a bunch of cloud arrangements with Microsoft and Amazon. Is the plan to sort of leverage public cloud increasingly, as well as the hybrid cloud arrangements under GovNext ICT?
Yeah, it is. I think that I think most observers would say that in the time since GovNext was established, that the market, the service offerings, the confidence around public cloud has matured greatly. And I think my sense is many of our agencies now are looking to public cloud first for their transformation journeys, and that's something we support and we're comfortable with. That said, there will be agencies needing private cloud for some time because of the way that their architecture and their ecosystems are set up. But certainly from our point of view, those hyperscalers, the value proposition is very, very strong. As a consequence, we've worked very closely with our Department of Finance and also Commonwealth agencies to bring that value to the market, and we're quite happy how that's progressing.
I wanted to move now to cybersecurity. It's obviously another area that's quite dependent on the level of funding. It's been an area of focus for the office in recent years. Last year, you stood up a cybersecurity operations centre, I believe, to coordinate the response to incidents and improve the visibility of network threats and that kind of thing. But at the same time, cybersecurity has continued to be an area of significant weakness in the words of the State's Auditor General. So, and even appearing to go backwards in the case of last year. So I was wondering, how is the office working with agencies to address these concerns, and what role is the Cyber Operations Centre playing in all of this?
So there's a couple of connected topics there that we need to just sort of, comment on. So as far as the Security Operations Centre, if we deal with that firstly, so that went fully live from 1st of July this year. So we did receive funding in a previous funding cycle, but it's taken some time, obviously, to procure the capabilities, the people, to mature the offering, and to the point now where we have agencies connected and on service level agreements, and we're now actively monitoring those networks. And we obviously want to onboard more agencies during the course of the year. And that's working quite well. And even in the short period of time we've been operational, we've been able to offer assistance to agencies. So that's encouraging, and we think as more join, that will obviously grow. So we're quite happy with that. We would agree, broadly speaking, that the level of cyber maturity and resilience across the sector is not where it needs to be, whether that is in part because of some of the assessment work done by the Auditor General, or our own measurement program around what is essentially the essential 8 controls, which we as the office kind of embrace as the measuring stick, I guess, and in doing so, that puts us in line with most other state governments in terms of where the focus is on those controls that provide us with the greatest level of protection. So we've seen some evidence in the assessments against those controls that there has been some improvement, but I certainly wouldn't represent that it's been occurring at the rate we would like to see. So there's more work to be done there. And of course, the difficulty around the threat environment changing. So, look, we acknowledge there's more work to be done in the sector, and we are looking at further steps we can take to do that. And that's got a number of aspects associated with it, from the services we provide, and also how agencies can get support to uplift their particular situation. And some of that, if we look at one of our most significant weaknesses, which is around patching, a lot of it's got to do with agencies sitting on legacy environments as well. So as we said at the outset, that modernisation of the environments, and that contributes to a number of outcomes, and that includes better cyber resilience.
And you mentioned the Essential 8 before. Is that currently mandated within government, or is it still a recommendation only?
So what we did was we took the Essential 8 and in good West Australian fashion, we modified it slightly, because we knew that if we went straight to the Essential 8 with where we were, that might be a bit overwhelming. So we took the 5 priority controls we thought would have the best impact, and that's what we've been focused on. They are mandated, so agencies are obliged to make progress against those 5 controls. And in terms of the policy environment, we're currently looking at that, and we think we're getting close to that time where we can recommend that we should be moving to the full Essential 8 moving forward. So that's currently in flight. And part of the reason we can think we can do that is we've had a couple of years now working with those 5 controls, so we think we're probably ready to take the next steps.
The SOC is also being used as, I guess, like a training exercise. I remember reading that you're using it to train up TAFE grads or university grads, one of the two.
Yeah.
Is it just one of a number of programs that have been introduced to, I guess, assist with resilience? And what are some of the other ones that are on the table?
So that student program is really important, because we have a relationship with a number of universities and TAFEs where we actually outplace students into agencies to help do a bit of a rapid uplift, among other things. We do that. We offer training. We certainly help agencies with their policies and approaches. We've got collaboration going on across government where all the cyber people meet on a regular basis and talk about the strategies they're using. So it's multi-pronged, but our student program's been a real strength. And a number of the students that have come through have either ended up getting an opportunity with us or with other agencies. So that's very positive. And of course, in a very competitive employment market, it's those types of programs that government needs to access some of the talent we need to take this forward.
And do you believe that will be a focus moving forward as well? Will the government continue to invest in those kinds of programs to uplift skills, whether it be cybersecurity or other emerging areas? Yeah,
absolutely. So part of it is leveraging relationships with educational institutions, and the other one also is our big vendors. We've been able to drive some value under the arrangements we have with the whole of government enterprise agreement with Microsoft, for example. Where there are provisions within that agreement which allow resources to be set aside for the purposes of training and development, and we've had a particular emphasis on security. So, we've got to use every possibility we have to drive this, and of course that means making the best of the resources you have. So we're always looking for those potential opportunities to do that.
That was Greg Italiano, the Chief Information Officer for the West Australian Government. And that's the podcast for this week. We'll be back with an exciting new interview next week. Until then, you can check out the State of IT report and catch all the latest headlines in Australian IT over at itnews.com.au.